Hey everyone, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Hope everyone's doing good. I'm just going to wait a second for people to come on in. Just got the live notification. Hope you guys are all well. Going to go over some Rod Rosenstein testimony today, just a little bit of it anyway. But the video is brought to you by BioTrust. So happy to have them. Again, I love this stuff. It is really important to keep your body healthy and youthful all the time these days, and collagen is probably the closest thing we get to a real fountain of youth while forming a wall of defense between your immune system and the rest of your body. 75 to 90% of your skin, bones, joints, and tendons are made of collagen. The older you are, the more likely it's caught your attention, and for good reason. Lots of health experts agree that consuming collagen is crucial as it gets to renew and revitalize how you look and feel. In short, this year by year escalating loss of collagen is a key reason that people have skin sags and wrinkles, your hair gets thinner, your nails lose strength, you get stiff, you have digestion issues, etc. And collagen, which is this product, which is amazing, makes your skin healthy, makes your hair healthy. I've been using it, I've said a bunch of times when I talk about BioTrust, and it really works. Nails aren't breaking, hair is nice and strong, and it doesn't taste like anything. You just put it in a drink and drink it up every day, and it's fantastic. So go ahead on over to healthwithbeans.com and get yourself some BioTrust. It's really, really good, and they're sponsoring the channel, and they're helpful, and we love them. So thank you to BioTrust. I'm going to really quickly bring in some of my friends over on Facebook, DLive, and Periscope. Hey guys, thank God it's Friday is right. Thank God it's Friday is right. I don't think this is going to be, I'm so glad, Tim. Thanks so much. Tim got some for his wife. She loves it. It's great. It really does work. I'm serious. I'm serious. There's a reason why. There is a very good reason why you guys have only seen me read a lot of Noble Gold sponsorship ads, because I love Noble Gold, and it's not for lack of interest. We'll put it that way. I'm very particular about who I allow to advertise with me, because it's an endorsement, and I'm not gonna endorse something that I don't believe in. I'm just not doing it. So there's that. Anyway, hi guys. We're gonna talk about Rod Rosenstein today. The hearing was on Wednesday. It was 3 hours long. I'm not even gonna get into a lot of the questions and answers. I started going through the entire thing and writing notes and stuff, and it's just really, there's one big message that comes through. There's a bunch of little things in here that we can go through and dissect, but there's one big message that comes through, and I just wrote an op-ed for Uncover DC that explains what that is. Rod Rosenstein, in my opinion, is clearly there to protect the Department of Justice from any and all accusations of wrongdoing or culpability in this entire mess. Now, that isn't necessarily a bad thing per se. This hearing squarely placed the blame of basically everything that's ever gone wrong on the FBI, and they sure as hell are culpable for a good chunk of it, that's for sure. But this idea that the DOJ had absolutely no idea that was going on here, what was going on, is just ludicrous. So we're going to go through Rod Rosenstein's opening statement. I don't want to hear Feinstein. I don't want to hear Hirono, I swear, even though Hirono had a couple really good questions, one of which was in regard to the 25th Amendment. And then having Rod Rosenstein repeat over and over and over again that there was no obstruction of justice in the found in the at all in the Mueller probe. We will listen to his opening statement, which I will interrupt. So if you're looking for an uncensored, an uncut version of this, go to the C-SPAN link that I'll place in the description box, and you can find it there. This will be commentary. So let's start.
Truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. You may make your statement.
Well, thank you, Chairman Graham, Ranking Member Feinstein, and other members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me to join you today. When I was sworn in as Deputy Attorney General on April 26, 2017,
now, I know that's really quick to stop, but the first thing that I thought of when I started hearing him name dates of when he was sworn in is that one of the excuses he used throughout this is that, I wasn't there then. I didn't get there till April, and all that stuff happened before I got there.
I became responsible for helping the Attorney General to supervise 115,000 Department of Justice employees and to oversee hundreds of thousands of cases.
He makes a point to say how big his purview was, how many things he was responsible for. There were so many cases. There were so many people. How was I supposed to pay attention to everything? It's impossible. That's why I rely on other people. That's exactly why he does that, and for no other reason.
One of the most important matters pending in the department was an investigation of Russian election influence schemes. Attorney General Sessions had complied with his legal obligation to recuse himself from that investigation 7 weeks before I arrived, and the matter had been under the supervision of Acting Deputy Attorney General Dana Bente as a result.
Dana Bente, the same Dana Bente that just retired in quotes the other day, last week, the one that we've talked about on this channel a whole lot. I have been of the opinion that he is not a friend. And I have been rebuked on that by several very well-respected people, but I maintain, not a friend.
Many federal agents and prosecutors were working on criminal cases that officials considered potentially relevant to Russian election meddling.
Meddling.
As a result of events that followed the departure of the FBI director, I was concerned that the public would not have confidence in the investigation and that the acting FBI director was not the right person to lead it. I decided that appointing a special counsel was the best way to complete the investigation appropriately and to promote public confidence in its conclusions.
Problem here. Big problem here. As we learn throughout this hearing, and is obvious if you're listening for the same things that most of us are, he talks about the difference between a special counsel and an independent counsel, and the fact that special counsel is, the investigation is shorter, it doesn't take as much time, there's oversight from the Department of Justice. He's basically saying that Andrew McCabe couldn't handle this investigation, wouldn't do it right, and then people cheer him. Yes, take it away from McCabe. That's the whole reason for the special counsel, and to make sure it's independent and it's done correctly. Well, the problem with that is that the entire Crossfire Hurricane team moved over from the FBI to the special counsel's office to finish this damn thing. We know that because Lisa Page, Peter Strzok were demoted or left. Lisa Page left, Peter Strzok got fired from the Mueller special counsel. Now, not only that, but Mueller also hired a whole bunch of Democrat partisans to sweeten the pot up a little bit more on this impartiality. Let's have the American people have confidence. Rod Rosenstein knew that that was what was going to happen when he went ahead and appointed the special counsel. So I don't believe any of this nonsense. Not any of it.
As we now know, the eventual conclusions were that Russians committed crimes seeking to influence the election.
That's debatable.
Americans did not conspire with them. A special counsel appointment was consistent with Department of Justice precedent. Attorney General Bill Barr and Attorney General Janet Reno each in the 1990s had appointed special counsels in several cases when they concluded that a prosecutor with some degree of independence from the department could best resolve sensitive matters. More recently, Attorney General Barr has assigned U.S. attorneys to take charge of significant investigations. But in May of 2017, there were only 3 confirmed United States attorneys remaining, all Obama administration appointees who had been ordered to resign and had been permitted to hold over for just a few months.
Basically saying that I didn't want to give it to any of the U.S. attorneys we had because they were all Obama holdovers. There was no one possible that could do this. There was no U.S. attorney that could do this investigation. It had to be Mueller.
Some people confuse special counsels and independent counsels. Independent counsels are appointed by federal judges. The Department of Justice does not supervise them. They often expand their jurisdiction, and they usually investigate for many years. In contrast, Special Counsel Mueller was supervised by the department with jurisdiction that was limited both in scope and in duration. I asked the special counsel to review each criminal allegation the FBI considered relevant to Russian election influence operations.
Uh-oh. We've got another problem here. We've got another problem. Here is the scope memo. Here's the scope memo that Rod Rosenstein directed the special counsel to look at. We find out in just a minute that Rod Rosenstein didn't direct them to do this. They directed themselves to. But I want to go through this real quick with you guys. Paul Manafort committed a crime or crimes arising out of payments he received from the Ukrainian government before and after the tenure of President Viktor Yanukovych. Is that having to do with Russian interference? Or committed a crime or crimes arising out of his receipt of loans from a bank whose chief executive officer was seeking a position in the Trump admin? Did that have anything to do with Russia? George Papadopoulos, that he was committed a crime or crime colluding with the Russian government officials with respect to the efforts to interfere in the election, or that he was an unregistered agent of the government of Israel. How do those two things even exist in the same paragraph? Allegations that Michael Flynn committed a crime or crimes by failing to report foreign contacts and income on a SF-86 form he completed in anticipation of his being selected to serve as the NSA to President Trump, or committed a crime or crimes by acting as an unregistered agent for the government of Turkey. Neither of those things, none of those things, zero of those things had anything to do with Russian interference. So save it. Save it.
And recommend whether to close the matter, to investigate because it might be relevant to Russian election meddling, or to refer the matter to another prosecutor. I also established a supervisory chain of command within the department. Highly qualified department attorneys met regularly with the special counsel team to review recommendations about which matters to investigate and to approve significant steps in consultation with me. Whenever the special counsel proposed charges for which a United States attorney would need approval from the Department of Justice, from a headquarters division, those charges were reviewed, as usual, by the tax division, the national security division, or the criminal division.
Do you see what he did there? He shifted it to the other divisions. They reviewed the charges. I just took their recommendation. They're the ones who did all the reviewing. I just took it in.
Well, I understand that today's hearing may focus on the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act.
Listen closely.
When I served as Deputy Attorney General, every FBI FISA application was written by agents and attorneys, reviewed by supervisors, sworn under oath by a federal agent, and certified by the FBI director.
Ooh. All of them did that. The FBI, the FBI, the FBI, the FBI.
Before any application was submitted to the court, a senior department official, either the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, or the Assistant Attorney General for National Security, met with National Security Division supervisors to ensure that the application set forth a valid legal and factual basis.
In other words, the NSD told us so. We just met with them and they said, yep, that's what it does. And we said, okay, no worries. No worries. We'll take your word for it. Thanks so much, guys. The Department of Justice bears no culpability in this FISA warrant at all, even though we're signing it with our signature.
Ultimately, each application was submitted to a federal judge who decided whether it set forth probable cause that justified the issuance of a warrant. Every application that I approved appeared to be justified based on the facts it alleged. And the FBI was supposed to be following protocols to ensure that every fact was verified. But investigative reviews published by the Inspector General in December 2019 and March of 2020,
Listen carefully.
those investigative reviews revealed that the FBI was not following the protocols.
Shame on
And
you,
that significant
FBI.
errors appeared in applications filed in connection with the Crossfire Hurricane investigation.
Hold on.
The Inspector General concluded, and I quote, that so many basic and fundamental errors were made by 3 separate hand-picked teams on one of the FBI's most sensitive investigations that FBI officials expected would be subject to close scrutiny, raised significant questions regarding the FBI chain of command's management and supervision of the FISA process.
let's say that they also raised significant concerns about the DOJ's handling of the FBI. If this investigation was subject to scrutiny, and Rod Rosenstein just used that as an example inside of his own opening statement, how scrutinized these things were, how are you going to sit there and listen to this man tell you with a straight face that he did not look at anything on his own? He had no idea that they were lying to him. He had no idea that the Russian dossier was paid for by the DNC in June of 2017. He had absolutely no idea that the sources for the stuff inside the dossier had been lying. He had no idea that the FBI withheld exculpatory information about General Flynn. He had no idea that the FBI had sent an agent in to gauge whether or not General Flynn's general demeanor during a How are you going to sit here and believe this nonsense? How do you believe anybody that's saying that right now? I'm having a really, really, really hard time with. Yes, it's true that Rod Rosenstein threw the FBI under the bus like whoa. And yes, everything he says about the FBI is true. However, how can you say that he let this all go on knowingly, did nothing about it all for some big master plan at the end? Give me a break. You're trashing constitutional rights left and right. You're investigating a sitting president. The Mueller special counsel ruined people's lives, ruined them, completely ruined them.
Senators, whenever agents or prosecutors make serious mistakes or engage in misconduct, the Department of Justice needs to take remedial action. And if existing policies fall short, those policies need to be changed. Ensuring the integrity of governmental processes is essential to promoting public confidence in the rule of law. But while it is necessary to correct mistakes and to punish wrongdoers, it certainly should not go unsaid today that our law enforcement agencies are filled with extraordinary. I know that the members of this committee share forward to addressing your questions.
Echo what you said.
Here we go.
To protect our country, and we appreciate them, but every now and then things get off script. And that's what brings us here today. You signed a warrant application in June of, I think, 2017 to get the Carter Page warrant renewed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you looked at the
Look at his left hand behind this little sign.
Hart's report?
Yes, I have. I have it with me, Senator.
If you knew then what you know now, would you have signed the warrant application?
No, I would not.
And the reason you wouldn't have is because Mr. Horwitz found that exculpatory information was withheld from the court. Is that correct?
Among other reasons, yes.
Yeah, and somebody actually altered an email.
Correct.
Right. So there were 17 violations that Mr. Horwitz found, but I can't stress enough to the country that he found the most egregious of all. The dossier was the only reason the Carter Page warrant was issued to begin with. And in January 2017, the man who provided Steele with all the information told the FBI it was a bunch of garbage, and they used it twice more. What kind of country is this? What happens to people who do that? Did you know that? You didn't know that, did you?
Why don't you just lead the witness a little more? You didn't know that, right? You didn't know that, right? I mean, give me a break. It's very clear what's happening here. He's going to say, of course not. Of course I didn't know that, you know? And not only that, but later on he says to them, I just want to make sure that you guys understand. We didn't use the Steele dossier in the FISA warrant. Intelligence from the Steele dossier was used in the FISA warrant. Forgetting that we know now that the text from the dossier was copy and pasted into the Page FISA warrant. They copy and pasted from the Steele dossier into the FISA warrant.
No, sir.
Do you think McCabe knew that?
I hope not, Senator. I do not personally know.
Was he in charge of the investigation?
Yes, he was.
Did he ever lie to you?
Mr. McCabe,
Or lie to you?
Mr. McCabe was.
Did he ever lie to you?
Mr. McCabe, I don't believe, Senator, that there were any occasions in which I identified that he lied to me.
Okay. Did he ever say anything, looking back, that is perplexing to you?
Well,
Perplexing to you?
well,
Perplexing to you?
that's a very broad question, Senator. I had a lot of
Do you
conversations.
think he was truthful to you?
Why is he interrupting? Why?
Senator, I had a lot of
Do you
conversations.
think he was truthful to you?
I believed, Senator, that Mr. McCabe was not fully candid with me. He certainly wasn't forthcoming. In particular, Senator, with regard to Mr. Comey's memoranda of his interviews with the president and with regard to the FBI's suspicions about the president, Mr. McCabe did not reveal those to me for at least a week after he became acting director, despite the fact that we had repeated conversations focusing on this investigation. And for whatever reasons, Mr. McCabe was not forthcoming with me about that. He has subsequently said publicly, in public comments he's made about the investigation.
He knows, Rod Rosenstein knows that McCabe, in public conversations he's had subsequent to all of this, has said that whatever he's going to say right now, which we'll play. But I just want you to realize this is a very good memory that he has. He knows exactly what McCabe said. But he has literally, as per him, zero idea of what is going on in the case of General Flynn right now. He has zero idea. If there's exculpatory information out there, then I'm really sorry, blah, blah, blah. Can you believe those two things square?
His team had been leading up to certain important decisions for some time. From my perspective, Senator, they'd been conducting this investigation for, I believe, approximately 9 months.
How much did you rely on Mr. McCabe's statements to sign the warrant? How much did that factor into whether or not you thought the warrant application was accurate?
With regard to the warrant application, Senator, I wouldn't say that I relied on Mr. McCabe's statements. I certainly had the understanding of what Mr. McCabe had told me, but the document stands for itself. It's 100 pages.
Oh, it stands for itself, all right.
I relied on what I understood to be in the application.
What I understood to be in the application. What I understood to be in the application. Very careful word choice.
You did a scope letter, I think, August 2017, after you appointed Mueller. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Memorandum, I suppose.
Well, Senator, I don't know exactly who prepared it. I know how it came about, if you'd like me to explain.
Yeah, please, very quickly.
I'm not sure how quickly I can do it. But I'd asked Mr. Mueller to look at the whole,
He interrupts him again.
to look at all the potentially relevant matters.
Where did the information?
Why would you stop him from answering that? Oh, Mr. Graham.
In the document come from? Did it come from the Mueller team?
I believe it came from the Mueller team, but it came to me through the team that I had set up to interface with the Mueller team.
Okay, the team that you sent that interfaced with the Mueller team, did they make the conclusions that you need to be looking at Papadopoulos and all these people for colluding with Russia?
I think it's important, Senator, to recognize, one of the reasons I was very reluctant to release these documents publicly is because we investigate people who are not necessarily guilty. And so I didn't have any presumption that these folks were guilty of anything.
Did you believe they committed a crime?
I believe that I understood that there was predication to investigate it. I didn't believe.
Where did that come from? Who gave you that?
Listen carefully.
Did
carefully.
Believe they committed a crime?
I believe that I understood that
Did you believe they committed a crime?
I believe that I understood that there was.
Do you hear he changes it? I believe that there was, oops. I didn't believe it. I understood it. If I believe it, that means that I knew it to be true at the time and that was something that I believed. If I understood it, I can blame it on someone else who told me what was going on.
Predication to investigate it. I didn't believe.
Where did that come from? Who gave you that predication?
Well, that came from information that came to me from the FBI, initially from.
Was it from Strzok and Page, or those
initially
people
from Mr.
preparing all
McCabe,
these
he said.
documents?
I don't know who was preparing.
Were they in charge? Were they still the investigators for Mueller early on?
My understanding, Senator, is that Ms. Page and Mr. Strzok were working with
Okay.
the Mueller.
What input, if any, did they have into the information contained in the memo?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Who provided the information in the memo?
I'm sorry, which memo are we talking
The
about?
one where you lay out the
scope
scope
memo?
of the investigation?
That came through discussions between Mr. Mueller's team and...
Well, did anybody on your team recommend you look at Papadopoulos? Where did the idea that George Papadopoulos working with the Russians came from?
These matters, Senator, I believe were already open when I arrived.
Yeah, the
in April.
point is that they were open. These are the same people doing Crossfire Hurricane, and they gave you a document to sign, and here's my belief, that they prepared the document, that they defined the scope of their own investigation. Is that fair to say? That you were just a conduit for it?
Well, I'm relying on information that's coming up.
Yeah, well, you didn't do an independent investigation yourself, did you?
My job isn't to do the investigation.
No, did you do, you didn't do you basically
see-
relied on what they gave you.
You see, you relied on what they gave you. You relied on them. You didn't do this. You relied on them, right, Rod? I mean, come on.
Is that fair to say?
Relied on the information that...
Yeah, just like you did with the warrant.
Just like you did with the warrant, Rod. You relied on them. Listen to it in that frame, please.
My job isn't to do the investigation.
No, did you do, you didn't do you basically relied on what they gave you. Is that fair to say?
Relied on the information that...
Yeah, just like you did with the warrant.
You were there in the basement that day, weren't you? Just like you were the week before. Waiting to, right? Amazing.
Correct.
Okay, so the same people that gave you the warrant application also gave you the scope investigation for Mueller. So that's why we're here, to find out how much we can trust these people. Now, to appoint a special counsel, there's got to be evidence criminal investigation of a person or matter is warranted. What was the crime that you were looking at?
So I think, Senator, it's important to understand, first of all, that's what's required under the regulation.
Right.
It's actually not required to appoint a special counsel that could be
Okay.
a
Well,
crime.
was there a crime being looked at or
This
not?
particular case, yes.
What was the crime?
The original crime, underlying crime, was the Russian influence operation.
Okay, can you tell us what evidence existed that General Flynn was colluding with the Russians in May of 2017?
I don't, the evidence against General Flynn, first of all, Senator.
What evidence existed that General Flynn was colluding with the Russians in 2017, May of 2017?
I can't comment about that case, Senator, beyond what's in the
Did you
public
know
record.
that in January the 4th, 2017, the FBI field office said, we recommend that General Flynn be removed from Crossfire Hurricane?
No, I did not.
Okay. Would that have mattered if you had known that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know that they had recordings of Mr. Papadopoulos somewhere overseas saying, no, I never worked with the Russians, words to the effect that if the campaign did, that would be treason? Did you know that existed?
No, I did not.
Okay, did you know that Carter Page, how many times did Carter Page meet with Donald Trump?
I don't know the answer to that, Senator.
Okay, how many times did Papadopoulos meet with Donald Trump?
I don't know the answer to that.
He doesn't know, but he's signing a FISA warrant.
Well, I can tell you 0 in any meaningful way. The dossier claims that Manafort was, that Carter Page was a conduit at Manafort passing along Russian information. Are you aware of the fact that Carter Page has said numerous times, I never talked to Manafort?
It's Manafort. It's Manafort. F-O-R-T, not Manafort. Manafort. I'm just clarifying that for everybody, just in case. And hold on. I want to make one more point here. Later on in here, somebody invokes Manafort from the left, saying that he was talking to Konstantin Klimenik, or whatever, however you say his last name. Konstantin Klimenik was a State Department source. So these Democrats had better be careful where they tread. He was a State Department source. And the State Department isn't in the best of positions.
Okay. So the point is, when you made this appointment, the people named in it, there's 0 evidence they were
0.
working with the Russians. 0. And this went on for 2 years. $25 million, and people had their lives turned upside down. That General Flynn, in January the 4th, 2017, the FBI agents who'd been looking at him said they recommended he be dropped, and our good old buddy Strzok said, no, the 7th floor wants to look at him. If you had known that, would you have asked more questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Anyway, thank you for your service. Knowing what you know now, do you have any reservations about making the Mueller appointment, given the fact that all the people named in this scope letter, there's like zero evidence by May 2017 they were working with the Russians? Do you have any concerns at all?
I think, Senator, there are two issues. The first is whether the investigation was appropriate, and the second is whether it was appropriate to assign it to Mr. Mueller. And the decision that I made
Interesting.
was based on the information I had at the time. You need to make the decision.
I'm not
based on
arguing
what
with
know
you
at the
about
time.
assigning it to Mueller. I'm saying, was there a legitimate reason to believe
Knowing what you know
that
now.
any of the people named in this letter were actively working with the Russians in August 2017?
In August 2017,
That's when you signed the memo.
my understanding, Senator, was that there was
What is
Reasonable
it?
suspicion.
What was it?
Reasonable suspicion.
Now, again, Senator, the investigation is concluded, and these people were not conspiring with the Russians. The information available at the time
Well,
included.
why do we have the
Well,
Mueller?
stop interrupting him, for F's sake. Let him tell you why he thought. He's saying he has no idea that any of the stuff is untrue. Don't you think letting him answer that question will give you some idea of whether or not he's being forthright?
Investigation at all if we had concluded they weren't working with the Russians?
I don't believe we had concluded it at that time.
I'm saying in January the 4th, 2017, the FBI had discounted Flynn. There was no evidence that Carter Page worked with the Russians. The dossier was a bunch of garbage. And Papadopoulos is all over the place, not knowing he's being recorded, denying working with the Russians. Nobody's ever been prosecuted for working with the Russians. The point is, the whole concept that the campaign was colluding with the Russians, there was no there in August 2017. Do you agree with that general statement or not?
I agree with that general statement.
Thank you.
Now we get to hear Feinstein. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. That's where I'm going to stop for today. Please do me a favor, guys. Go check out the op-ed that I just put up today called Rosenstein's Role, Protect the Department of Justice at All Costs. There's a lot more info in there. Also, I put up this morning. This is by Shipwreck Crew. It's a former U.S. attorney, 20 years experience, that wants to remain anonymous. Rosenstein and McCabe spar before a biased referee. Takes down Lawfare blog Ben Wittes and his take on this, basically saying that Rod Rosenstein is a swamp creature and McCabe and Comey are upstanding individuals. But one of the biggest things that's in here is sort of buried a little bit far down the article, but very poignant. This entire article is amazing. Is that based on the testimony from Rod Rosenstein at the hearing about this email to Mark Philippe, I am with Mueller. He shares my view. Duty calls. Sometimes the moment chooses us. He was asked about this in the hearing. He says, I am with Mueller means that he's literally physically sitting with Mueller. And what this article addresses for a long time, for a good portion of it in very specific detail, is that the same day as the alleged 25th Amendment wire conversation happened, Rod Rosenstein was meeting with Mueller. Lots of detail in here, a lot about Scott Schools. You don't want to miss this article. I will put it in the description box below. I tweeted it out earlier today, and it was shared on Facebook. If you're joining us from Facebook, love you guys on Facebook. If you guys want to support Uncover DC, you can go to the support tab at uncoverdc.com and support there. You can also go to paypal.me/TracyBeans. You can go to patreon.com/TracyBeans, or you can go to subscribestar.com/TracyBeans and support me so that I can keep doing this work. You guys are fantastic. Listen, have a good weekend. Care about you all very much. Share this video with your friends, and I will talk